to me, just the timing of everything also indicates that it's going to be a really hard vote, because if Democrats had, this is gun policy debates have not changed very much in 30 years, right? It's been the same two issues. Now we have seen some variation on that this year because obviously we got that bipartisan deal that didn't deal with a universal background check bill or an assault weapons ban. But most of our time is spent on those two policies. And the Democrats have never tried to pass an assault weapons ban to this point. And they haven't tried to pass it, since the last one expired, at least in 2004. And they haven't tried to pass it the last 4 years they've had control of the House, which indicates that they think it's a hard vote for a lot of their members to take. Whatever they might say publicly, or whatever any analyst might say, whatever you and I might say, just the actions speak louder than words, right? If they thought it was going to be an easy vote, they would have taken it a long time ago. There have been plenty of opportunities after mass shootings over the last 4 years to do this policy, or at any time in between. If they I'm sure, some people in that caucus think it's a good policy, right? They think this is the right answer. So they would have done it if they could have. It's always, a top talking point on guns for Democrats, including the president, as you mentioned. And they just haven't done it because they don't have it's going to be hard. They didn't do it. And they passed the whole gun control package in the aftermath of Uvalde. That included a magazine ban, but not an assault weapons ban. And so, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. What do you think? Where do you think it's going to end up?
I think it's going to be close. I think they're going to pull out all the stops to try to get this across the finish line. Right. And you've got two Republicans that'll cross over, I think, in Kinzinger and in Chris Jacobs. I'm curious to see what Brian Mast does in Florida. He's previously come out in favor of a ban on so-called assault weapons. He also faces an August primary challenge. He is not a co-sponsor to this bill.
Yeah, no Republican co-sponsors right now.
And I wonder if Brian Mast finds a way to vote against this particular bill while maintaining his openness to a gun ban in principle. He's one that I'm watching just because it's been interesting to see how he's handled this issue since 2018. I think it's going to be close. I would predict that it will pass by 1 or 2 votes with a lot of strong arming, but I would not be shocked at all if it fails by 1 or 2 votes. Although, actually, I will. Let me amend that. I will be shocked if it fails by 1 or 2 votes because I don't think Pelosi's going to bring it to the floor for a vote.
Yeah.
If she doesn't know the votes are there. This will just kind of quietly fade away. Oh, we didn't have time. We got caught up in some other piece of legislation. Look, August recess is here. Sorry. That'll be what happens to the gun ban bill. And of course, if it does get out of the House, it's going nowhere in the Senate.
Right.
So again, it's a purely performative vote. I don't think it even has 50 votes in the Senate. Right now, there are 37 co-sponsors. This is, I don't even look at this particular bill as oh my gosh, they're coming for my guns, because I know that the bill's not going to pass. I look at this bill and say, oh my God, they're so worried. They're hunting for votes right now. They're trying to convince, their Democratic base, just please turn out and vote for us. Pay no attention to what's going on at the gas pump. Pay no attention to what's going on when you go and get your groceries every week. And again, I just don't think that this issue is going to resonate with even enough of the Democratic base to really substantially improve their election fortunes this November.
Yeah, I think everything you said there is, again, I would agree with it. Because, I mean, look, you'll know if it's going to pass based on whether it gets a vote. If it gets scheduled for a vote next week, it's going to pass. I would bet everything on that. But It's going to be super close. They have a little bit of wiggle room because there's 4 Republicans that I could see doing it, just because the 2 that you mentioned, the 3 you mentioned, but there's also Upton, I believe, would be another one. But because there were 4 people who voted for the magazine ban, 4 Republicans who voted for that. That was the closest vote in that package that the House passed. They only got 220 votes for that. So they can afford to lose 4 votes and still pass this from that high watermark. And because it's a fairly analogous policy. Like if you're for a magazine ban, you're probably for an assault weapons ban. Now I think it's a slightly harder lift to go to the assault weapons ban, but that's where I look to for my inspiration of like, who should I be watching? And it's
I think it's a good proxy.
Yeah. And they're close on those guys. There were 7 Democrats who, the 4 Republicans didn't co-sponsor. And then there were 7 Democrats who didn't co-sponsor. I think they've already got 3 of those Democrats to say publicly that they're going to vote for it. So that leaves, a little bit of work left to do, but not an insurmountable task, I would say. But yeah, it's going to be super close. And I agree with you on the Senate. I don't think it's going to get to a vote. I don't think they'll bring that up for a vote at all because
no way,
man, it'd be hard to see them getting to 45 votes. I think, and none of those Senate Democrats, none of the moderate Democrats are going to want to vote on that either way. I mean, that's the other key thing here is like a lot of these House Democrats, having to vote on it at all is going to be bad for them, regardless of what they decide to vote, because even if they vote against it, as somebody in a purple or more purple district, that's still going to annoy some of the Democrats in that district more than it would if they never voted. I mean, that's the politics. The politician's paradox, I guess, is you never really want to vote on anything.
But I think it's going to annoy some Democrats in 2 ways. I mean, there was we've been talking polling. There was a CNN poll that came out earlier this week, and it had a fascinating result in that majorities of Democrats and Republicans both felt like Congress was not talking enough, or congressional candidates were not talking enough about the issues that were important to them. And again, I think if you are concerned about the rising cost of living, if you are concerned about, rising mortgage rates, you're worried about your wages not keeping up with inflation, do you really give a crap that Abigail Spanberger voted for a gun ban? Like, does that do anything to improve your life? Or if you're in Virginia's 7th district, are you annoyed that she's out there following, the lead of Nancy Pelosi rather than actually doing something that matters? And so I think you're right. I think it is going to have an impact in a number of these swing districts, but just not the impact that the Democrats are hoping for, right? I mean, it might rile up a little bit of their base, but I think it's going to annoy a lot of voters who say, why are you wasting your time on this stuff? And to that end, I mean, I think we're probably seeing a bit of a backlash like that in the red states with some of the, abortion laws that have been put on the books. I think there is a frustration, broadly speaking, that politicians aren't focusing on the right things. But nationally, the economy is the key issue. So if you're not focused on the economy, then you're aggravating and annoying and driving away voters right now. I think that's the bottom line.
I think that's the biggest concern. The other thing I would note, too, is, I think the people this helps aren't the swing district people. And they probably wrote those people off already, frankly, given the political atmosphere. So the person who might be helped by something like this is somebody in like a Biden +7 or a Biden +10 district who's going to be uncomfortably close, if not losing, come November. And so maybe having an assault weapons ban to their credit turns out some more of their activists. I think one of the biggest problems with that idea, though, is that if they wanted to use guns as a wedge issue, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that bipartisan bill then, because that takes a lot of the wind out of this because they just did something on guns.
It does, but I don't know that they're going to be talking much about it. I mean, because again, go back to the polling, it seems like a lot of Americans are broadly dissatisfied, right? Sure. If you were a Democrat, it didn't go far enough. If you're a Republican, it went too far. So I think there are going to be a lot of Democrats who just kind of quietly drop that bill and maybe talk about, fighting for common sense gun reform, but it'll be included as part of, it'll be, this is what we did, but we need to do more. We got to ban these assault weapons, which is why I cast my vote for this. It'll probably be coupled with that. I mean, that seems to be the messaging that we've seen since the bill signing.
I just think it's going to be a hard sell to go in and say Republicans are holding up progress on guns when they literally just passed the first, major federal gun bill in 30 years in the same Congress. It's just that it just makes it that much harder to make this argument, because just the whole reason you pass an assault weapons ban in the House is that you're trying to blame Republicans for blocking it in the Senate, which also doesn't really follow, because it's going to be Democrats who block it in the Senate because there aren't going to be 50 votes for it. But
you are expecting way too much truth and accuracy from campaign ads, Stephen Gutowski. You sweet summer child, you. I don't know what to tell you. No, you're right. That's the reality, but that's not how it's going to be portrayed in attack ads. I mean, that's just the bottom line.